What if everything you've been told about women, aging, and sexuality is backwards? Because according to mainstream culture, women should become less desirable as they age, less sexual, less vibrant, less alive. And yet I keep meeting women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who are having the best sex of their lives. Not because they found some magical hormone or they're only dating younger men, not because they suddenly became 25 again somehow, but because they're finally becoming themselves. And the older I get, the more I realize that youth and aliveness are not the same thing. And maybe the real story isn't that women lose their sexuality as they age. Maybe the real story is that many women finally stop abandoning themselves. And that is what we're talking about today. If someone had told me when I was 25 that my sex life, my love life, the way I felt about life in general, right? Like my level of aliveness and confidence and sexiness and all those things, that those would be stronger, that I would have more pleasure in my 50s than I was having in my 20s, I would have been like, fuck you. That's cute, but I don't buy it. And I think when I was in my 20s, when I looked around at people who were in their 50s or 60s or 70s, women especially, I was like, who cares? Like irrelevant. Like, go knit me something, grandma. You know what I mean? I had this very ageist perspective, which I think is so common in our culture because that's the story we're told. And that is not the experience I'm having. I know that's not the experience you're having in your 40s. That is not the experience so many women we're working with who are our age or older are having. And so that's what I really want to talk about today. And my question for you, Barbara, to kind of kick this conversation off is when you were growing up, what did you believe happened to women as they got older? Like, did you have kind of that same opinion? And then, second, when did you start realizing that that story might be completely wrong?
So I honestly, because so Marta and I, for those of you listening, we have a very similar upbringing. We are both are well, I'm first generation. She's immigrated here from Russia, but it's both Ukraine, but it's both like, the Eastern European, very deep. Ukraine used to be part of the former USSR where she immigrated from, and that's where my parents immigrated from. So I'm first generation. So we have our lens, I shouldn't speak for me. My lens is colored by that culture when it comes to women aging. So it's really, really intense compared to even like American ageism. So honestly, I thought I would just disappear. Like, I really believed at some point women just went into a cave somewhere and wilted away. Like, I remember hearing that famous actress that was like, at some point, she was like, I just want to be alone. And then she disappeared and no one ever heard of her again. It was like Greta Garbo or something, I swear. And I was like, oh, so that's what happens. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I really thought, I was like, oh, I get it. Like, she like peaked and then she hides from the world because I had so much fear
Right.
around aging because the message I absorbed was women have an expiration date and it's a very short, like sexual, like prime life. And that after 25, your beauty starts to fade. Like, I just even remember when I was a kid how they would talk about, like, don't do this, no one will ever marry you. Don't do that, no one will ever marry you. Look this way,
Yeah.
like no one will ever love you. Like, you have to like be like size 2 or 4 or whatever. Like, you have to be super, know how to cook, all of
Yep.
these things. Like, it felt like all of these messages to prepare me for the right guy so that he would choose me because I'm about to expire. So like you gotta get
Right.
he's got
Yeah.
hurry up. So
It's
before
so
like
true.
you like your expiration date, right? And then after that, like beauty starts
Yeah.
fading, the desirability goes away, and then your sexuality disappears, and you're basically like a waste if you're just not taking care of the man. Like, your only value then becomes like taking care of the man and the household. So, and then
Yeah.
like, my entire value as a kid was placed on how I look. So aging felt terrifying. I remember having this weird belief. I don't even want to say it was weird. It was this belief that like I think I made up to like combat all of this fear in me that like I would die young
Yeah.
because I thought like I would get to 30. I was like, I remember getting to 30 and being like, what do I do with my life now? Because I really convinced myself like I'm obviously going to die because I'm 30. And so intense
Yes. You're
because
so
I
fun.
literally couldn't picture myself as an older woman who actually could have fun and be desired. And then I'm like, I don't want to fucking live like past 30 and then be like living in a cave like I'm dead. I might as well die, you know? So the only empathy I'd never really been shown that aging could be sexy. I think there's like this thing that I call like perpetual dissatisfaction. It's like a disease that I think Russian women, a lot of them really have, which is like they like have this in them. Like they also have this belief of like aging, they can't be sexy in age, but a lot of them are sexy after they age. And then they are, but they're not, they like hate themselves. So it was all
Yeah, totally. Like, I grew up obviously, we had a similar upbringing, but I specifically remember my grandmother who was very
right,
young when she had children, and my mother was only 19 when she had me. So,
exactly.
young mother, young grandmother. So, she's maybe in her 40s when she's saying this to me, right, as a grandmother. Number 1, I was never allowed to call her grandma. I had to call her mama. Like, so no one in public could ever know she was old enough to be a grandmother, okay? She explicitly told me, "Do not get older. At
Right.
least don't let them see
Hide
you
the
get
aging,
older." You know what
hide
I
the
mean? So that
aging.
was like a
Like,
thing.
how do you hide that? Like, this
Yes.
is
And so she would like even as she aged, even in her 70s and 80s, she was wearing fucking mini skirts and like she was
right.
faking it as much as she could. You know, she never had plastic surgery or did any of that, but as much as she could, she would. And that was always the message. Um, and then you'd see like she would look at women her own age who weren't playing the dress up game that I'm going to pretend I'm 25 forever, and she would like completely like ignore them or shame them or like, so I had the vision of like there are young women and then there are super wrinkled gray-haired little babushkas who just took care of the grandchildren and the great grandchildren and cook food all day in the kitchen,
Right,
and you never
right.
saw them outside of the kitchen.
It was so it's like there's so
Oof.
many mixed messages and it was like so fucked up because it's like, yeah, like we go to like Russian restaurants and it's like I'd see women of all ages and like Russian women really take pride in how they look and they care. But I think one of the things was like that underlying was like it's still not good enough because I'm not 20. I'm not 21, I'm not 22. So
Yeah.
this is just all like a lie. And there's also like this deep hatred of
Yeah.
men because of all of it, which is like I get it, but it's like all fucked up. So it was like, I remember my mom dressing me like in very sexy, I grew up in an American neighborhood and my mom dressing me in like sexy clothing, like Dolce and Gabbana lace for like when I'm 13. And then she's like,
Mhm.
don't be a slut. And I'm
Yep.
like, it's that confusing.
Wait,
Like,
what?
yeah, that looks sexy, like, at 13, and I'm so confused because by their standards, it's like, you're getting married at, like, 16, 17, 18. You're having babies at that age, it's like babies having babies, but so we're preparing you and, like, getting your sexuality out of you but that wasn't explained, because it was, like, the way that the mixed messages underlying was, like, your sexuality is a way to catch a man who will then take care of you, and then after you marry him, it's up to you what happens next, right? Like, we're out of here. We've done what
Yeah,
we needed to do to
totally.
prepare you to catch the man, And then now we're
Right, right.
yeah.
And I think, like the messaging continues. It's not just relegated to the Russian folks, to be clear. Like this is universal because I can't tell. I mean, I remember how many of my friends, as we approached 30, were in a full on
Yeah.
panic that they were turning 30. Like this was a crisis. And then 40 fucking tragedy. Like how many friends do you have that said, I'm 39 forever? Like they just never acknowledged 40, went beyond it. You know what I mean? Like that's a very real truth, I think, for women. And it's still marketed to us now, right? Like I'm constantly getting in my feed anti-aging products, how to look younger. I know women who start Botox in their 30s.
They love her.
Like
I have
we are
friends who
fighting
have
the
like
clock.
daughters that are teenagers and they're like, I'm like, wait, what? Like they're getting like, what are you talking?
Oh, really? That young? Yeah. Okay. You're making my point for me. But here's what I think is so interesting and so overlooked and so not talked about, and that's why we're talking about it here, is again, if you took 25-year-old Marta and compared, you know, who's having better sex, 25-year-old Marta or 54-year-old Marta?
Oh, 100%.
Hands fucking down. I am having a
100%.
better time. Who knows herself better? Obviously, me. Who feels more free? Again, me. Who feels more alive? Once again, me. Even though I'm older, even though I have to work harder to, do some of the things that used to be no problem, like stay up really late and still get up and be fresh in the morning, But there is absolutely no debate that we have been lied to. We've been sold a version of aging that, again, fits into the patriarchal system of how do we control women? Well, don't tell them that they get more powerful. Tell them that they get weaker and that there's an expiration date and they need to pour all of their energy into staying young and small and complicit
Wait, time
to the
out. I
rules
want to
for as
ask you a
long as
question. So,
possible.
why do you think it is
Yeah.
that you feel the way you do now and you're having better sex now than you did when you were in your 20s?
I mean, a whole bunch of reasons. To name a few, I know myself better. I trust myself more. I listen to my body in a way that in my 20s I didn't. I listened much more to the external and to what other people thought and cared much more about what they said and who I was impressing and how people responded to me. I know what brings me pleasure in a way that I was just, it was pleasure was a new experience to me in my 20s. It was just starting to like learn, what do I really like? What really turns me on? Like what do I want out of a sexual experience? I have a level of maturity and discernment that I didn't have then. It was much more about him. And was he still finding me sexy? Did I look good? Was he enjoying it? Was he going to ask me out again? Whatever, like that kind of external validation stuff.
Yeah, so you flip the
All of that
script. That's
is
I think
nature.
that's really the point. Like, and that's really what I'm trying to get at is like there is a moment, like I know for me, it's like why, like, so for people who like are listening so that they really get lands, it's like there is a moment where I decided like fuck this, I'm gonna own my sex. I never owned
Yeah.
it. I didn't own it. There was shame, there was guilt, there was people pleasing, there was so much bullshit around it. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm deciding I'm going to own my sex. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that looks like, but I know there's bitches out there who they're walking around like they own their sex. They are proud, they're sexually expressed, and you can see they're having good sex when I would ask them, like, what are you doing? Because they weren't necessarily like, they didn't have the Botox, but they looked good, you know? Be like, what do you
Yeah.
do? It's like that thing that you can't explain, but you're like, what is there a vitamin? And they're like, oh no, I'm having hot sex. And I'm like, all right, I need to be friends with you. I need to be friends with and I need to be friends with you because something here is different. And it's this
Yeah.
ownership of I get to have this, I get to own this. I'm giving myself permission to explore what this means for me, like notwithstanding what everybody else thinks or wants. And that is like it's the
Yeah.
power move, right? Because when I was younger, I didn't know I could own my sex. I didn't know that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. I mean, and I think my younger sexual experiences were I didn't know what I was doing, but I needed to pretend like I did, right? I didn't want to I didn't want to reveal the fact that I was a novice,
Right.
even though I was. I wanted to be like, cool about it and I know what's up. And really I was looking to him to set the pace and he didn't know what the fuck he was doing anyway because he was my age too. And so we're all just
Right.
figuring it out, right? And he didn't know anything about me. He like maybe knew himself a little bit. I knew myself a little bit, but we weren't really communicating on that. And so I would also add that I used to tolerate stuff in a sexual dynamic that I would never put up with now, that it's not no longer is my sexual experience about how do I make sure he likes me more and I get a little fun out of it. It's purely about like sacred, potent, beautiful, healing, connecting, intimate, like life affirming experience, sensory experience that is that intimate play with another human.
Totally different. It's
Completely
like,
different
yeah, well,
animal.
that's part of it. Like when I started to own my sex, when I started to say, like, it really is as simple as like making a decision. Like anyone listening right now, you could just like literally be
Yeah.
like, I decide right now I'm going to own my sex. And if you start to really operate from that decision, you'll start to see things lined up in a different way. It's really that basic because then I started to understand, wait a second, I knew I was tolerating things, but I didn't actually have that higher awareness of like, wait, I am tolerating. Does that make sense? Like, it's like I knew in the moment, like,
Yeah.
I'm a no to this, but I'm not doing anything about it. Like, I would have sex when my
Yep.
body was a no. And like, and you know how I knew I was
Yep.
tolerating it is after I felt bad. It's that basic. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
I'm out of
Yeah.
congruence with myself. My body is not like feeling good right now. Why? Because I did something that was in betrayal of it. I abandoned my body and my body's
Yeah.
desires, and that didn't feel good. And then shame would come up, right? And then, like the people pleasing in the bedroom, ignoring my body because I didn't want someone else to feel rejected,
Yeah.
like being afraid to say what I wanted and ignoring like if
Yeah.
something felt painful in the moment but it seems like he was enjoying. I didn't know, honestly I didn't even know if he was enjoying it or not, but if he looked like he was enjoying it, I would just be like, let's get this over with, even if it felt painful for me, not say like stop. And like it was like there was no pleasure for me,
Yeah.
it was more like I'm gonna tolerate, I'm gonna endure, I'm gonna endure this. And like
Yeah.
actually like the fucked up thing about the enduring is like I thought I was like, look at me. I endured so he could come. I'm a
Yeah, right? Because it's a means to an end. It's part of that conditioning of, like, you need to be chosen, you need to, land that man that's gonna take care of you, and, okay, if I need to endure shitty sex so that he
exactly.
wants
He's
me
gonna
more and he
love me
wants me,
more.
to
He's gonna
is
love
his
me more. But the truth
yeah,
is, and this is the fucked up part, they know when you're enduring. And they don't necessarily always stop because they're like in the moment and they're like primal is coming out. So they're like taking theirs. But they know if a woman, like they know like through the body, they understand. And then that's when they feel shitty about themselves too after. So it's not just a one way road. I've had so many conversations with men about this of like, I know if like she wasn't enjoying it and she's lying to me and says to me like I did. And so it's like these conversations we're not
mhm.
having with our partners. Like everyone's disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just
Well, this gets to what we've talked about in other episodes, right? It's part of it is no
right.
one's getting the education that they should have gotten around sex. So we don't know what the fuck we're doing and we're just like seeing something in media or pornography and we're like, "Okay, that's how I guess that's what we do." Okay? And then we're not talking about it because there's all this self-consciousness happening around body stuff and we have so much shame around our bodies, and women in particular have so much shame about their sexuality. Like, I remember many times in my youth, you know, being in the moment, having sex with somebody, knowing I wanted it, like it was, like I'm there of my choice with my consent. And at the same time, like there's no like, I don't really know how to get the
Yeah,
experience
it's
is
very
limited. You know what I
it's
mean?
very like this
Um,
because it's this box because they have limited us with what the lack of education and the teeny tiny education that they gave us is so limited where like sex is basically like an umbrella rainbow, I think of it, and there's so many like how umbrellas have those little like things at the end of each, I don't know what it's called, what the word is.
yeah, I don't know what they're called
It's
either, but I
a
know what you're talking about.
spectrum, right? And so many ways you can go. There's
Mhm.
so much you can do in it. It's like a spectrum. It's a whole universe onto its own. It's a whole language. There's so much that you can do with it to like fuel your life and creativity and like it's like how art gets made and all like it's just there's so many ways. It really is a universe. And they limited it for us because then again it goes back to they can control us, like, and they can it's oppression and power and all of that. So it's like here we are with this limited fucking lens. And part of that limited lens is once you get to a certain age, whether you're in Russian culture, I don't remember, I know in American culture too, there was like an age cutoff for women where they like would have to go hide in a cave, like by my beliefs. But like it was like, but I just don't know why.
Okay.
Maybe it was a little bit older than 25. I don't know. But it was all like, I think most cultures have that for women. It's just a different age range. But it's fascinating. What I find about that is because by that time, what happens is in the brain, by 25, you're fully formed in the brain. And it's like you start to have moments of like, you've got some life experience. You're like, wait, I kind of have opinions
Yeah.
here. You're not being like,
Yeah.
like the school, you're out of the school, you're probably left the home. So now you're a little bit more free and you're kind of like, wait a second, I can make decisions on my own for myself. That
Hmm.
starts to
Hmm.
become that's threatening to societal beliefs and the whole system. So of course, they make aging wrong because we have it in us from
Yeah.
age 0 that you're going to be like expired after 25. It's just like they hex us in that way so that okay, even if I have opinions now they don't matter or they're wrong because you're actually now a victim of your own beliefs. Like it's fascinating
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
it's a fascinating like mind fuck when I see it with women because it's like wait a second, like where is it written that you can't have hot sex after 30 or 40 or 50? And it's really a moment of coming to terms with your inner like your internalized patriarchy and being like it's just because someone taught
Yeah.
you that. That's the
Yes, yeah. So I wanna, like, repeat that 1,000 times. I wanna shout it from the rooftops, like, "You have been lied to. They have been telling you stuff that you believe." Like, every day in the comments on our YouTube channel, on our videos, there is some younger woman who stumbles across it and is like,
right. I
"I
don't
don't
believe
believe you."
you. I don't
There's
believe
like
you. And it's
they really don't. They're like, but what about I heard that your vagina atrophies. I heard that there's no lubrication. I hear you lose your sex drive. I hear no man wants you. What about the youthful innocence and how you lose that? It's just not as attractive if you don't have that. Like they're
I know.
buying it hook, line, and sinker. And I did too. I remember talking to my therapist when I turned 40 and being like, I'm not getting checked out anymore. What like this is I'm concerned. There's what's up. You know what I mean? Like we all buy that and I'm telling you on this side of that equation, it's fucking fiction and it's part of the way that we are kept in control. It's again not to get like super meta about this, but it's the pedophiles who want us to stay young and small and like little girls forever. It's like that conditioning, right? When in fact a grown woman who fucking knows herself, knows her body, is able to really soften and surrender in her lover's arms and receive pleasure and not perform pleasure. I'm getting chills. Like there's nothing sexier than
But
that.
it's
There's
even
nothing more
deeper. It's
powerful and
even
potent
deeper
than
than I was
that.
actually having a conversation with a client yesterday and she was complaining about all this and she's like, in her late 50s. And she was like, I just don't understand. Why am I not manifesting the sex? I'm like, and like she's like, I'm so scared. And I'm like, you're not scared of the sex. You're scared of your own radiance. You're scared of your own sex. That's why I'm saying you need to own your sex because part of the conditioning is don't go there and there's something scary there. You know why? Because when a woman really taps into it, especially at a certain age, because now she's not controlled by parents and school and authority, she has some autonomy in her life. She has some sovereignty in her life on her every day because she's like, working, creating, doing her own thing. So she has that part of her in her. What happens is we become insatiable. And I think the deeper thing is it's not just the pedophiles, it's what happens
I don't know.
is men are terrified of that. Women are terrified of their insatiability, and men are terrified because they're afraid if we start to come out like I'm not going to be able to like satisfy her. And that is the biggest threat. Like
Yeah.
our insatiability, which also reflects in the radiance, becomes like, I'm not going to be able to satisfy her. Where we've been that's, I think, the biggest fear. And it all comes from like, wow, when she gets sexually expressed, this is like the sun. Like, I can't, like, they're like, I can't really handle the magnitude of that. And women don't know how to hold it. I see, like, so it's like they're afraid that
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to hold it like responsibly. Like, they're going to be like, running around having sex with everyone, which is not true. Like, you have so much conditioning, you'll die before you do that. Like, that's never, don't worry about that. Like, you'd have to be like working all day for the next 40 years. Just like, there's enough conditioning that will allow you to be sexually expressed and still not be like totally overboard. And even if you do go overboard, like, good for you. Who gives a fuck? But at the end of the day, it,
That's the thing, like, the fear you're talking about, like, part of it was
yeah,
trained into us, right? We were taught to fear. Like, even though we have so much power, right? We literally create life. We've been taught, don't look at it, don't touch it, don't show it to anyone else. It's dirty, it's shameful, cover it up. It's only for making babies. I mean, not all of us learned that exact message, but the more religious you were, the more true that was. And we all got that
yeah,
message to some degree, right? So the real, like, it's like if you've been told not to touch a hot stove forever
yeah.
because you're going to burn your hand, and then someone's like, well, actually, if you're just careful, or if you like you can touch it for a second, you're like, I'm not taking that risk. You know what I mean? Like, it's the programming is in there. So we're not saying to go out there and just slut it up, although feel
We're
free if
not going
that's
to
what you
judge
want. We're
you. We're
saying there's
not going to
so
judge
much
you.
more.
Yeah.
We're not gonna judge you. We're trying to say there's so much more available to you, and that you don't need to believe this myth that you have an expiration date, that there's no pleasure in the second half of your life, that there's no power, that you're irrelevant. Like, those are all, it is time for those old wives' tales, old men's tales to
So I
fucking
want to say this
die.
about that. It's like what you focus on expands. And if you are sitting there like, I don't believe this, I don't believe this, what you're doing is you're focusing on trying to prove yourself right. And you will, because you will look for evidence as to why you're right. And then it's like, is that what you really want? Do you want to prove yourself right that like you're going to be expired after 30? If you do, good luck for you. But if you are listening to this stuff and there's a part of you that's saying, I don't believe this, but there's another part of you that's still curious, follow the curiosity, because that's the curiosity, the part of you that's doubting. Wait, could I possibly be sexually expressed and enjoy sex at 40 and 50? Wait, there's women who are having like the hottest sex. Research, find out for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
why not? What do you like? If you like what you focus on expands, follow the curiosity and see where it leads you. You don't have to do everything in one day, but even the lubrication thing is such bullshit, because I personally think don't leave home without the lube. Like, like, I'm like my bag, like in your bag, like, always have lube on you. Lube, it's like, it doesn't matter what age you are. Like, you should always have lube with you. If you are, like, rule number one in the cortisone manual.
Correct. Like, lipstick forever.
Cortisone
That's it.
manual
That's all you
is
need.
like non-negotiable. Always have lube with you. It's always going to make everything better, even if you get really wet. Like, why not? Like, and that doesn't make anything wrong about you or your body. Like, again, like, there's just so many things, and it's like there's so many like the beliefs that would like, but I can't believe it. Like you just said before, like lubrication. It's like we have a way to fix that. Like, all of these things, we have workarounds, we have hacks, and
It's all myths. It's all been set up to keep you disempowered and not in pleasure and afraid of your own sexuality. Like, that's it. That is the whole story here, folks. So, in fact, this is why we created the Sensual Sisterhood, because we knew women needed a place to bust these myths, to see other women and hear like the truth about how they're experiencing pleasure in their lives, how they're reclaiming their power and their sensual sovereignty in their lives. And I think a lot of people look at the Sensual Sisterhood at first and they're like, oh, they probably share sex tips and like, cool lingerie websites. And like, no, no, no. The main thing we share is permission. We give each other permission to feel, to slow down, to want whatever the fuck we actually want. Permission to trust ourselves, to stop performing, to stop apologizing for the desires in the first place. And I think, because so many women have spent decades trying to become what they think a woman should be and very little time becoming who they actually are, that a space like that where we welcome you however you show up with whatever emotions you have, whatever fears, whatever relationship you have with your body, and we will celebrate you and witness you, and we will teach you some of these things and show you some of the ways to get back into your body and back into like the truth of what you desire. That there's nothing better than that. And there aren't enough spaces like that. So by the way, if you are curious and you want to learn more and you want to play with me and Barbara on this stuff, the link to join the Sensual
Yeah.
Sisterhood is in the show notes below. I have a question for you that I think would be a fun way to kind of land this plane and wrap things up. And that question is, if you could sit down with your 30-year-old self, let's say, for 5 minutes, what would you tell her about aging and sexuality and desire?
Oh my God. I think that I would talk about sex is also sacred, that it's not just a physical experience, that when you're connected to your body, when you've made time and space for you to have that deep relationship with your body and you're honoring it instead of abandoning it, and you're connected with your pleasure, there's a sacredness to it, there's a reverence to it that I can't put into words, but you will experience it, especially when there's another person also. It's, I found that in self pleasuring, and then it just amplifies
Yeah.
because here's the thing that's unique is that, yeah, I own my sex, I own my sacred slut, but it's not casual. I'm not there giving. It is a privilege to be in my space when I am sharing my sex with you. And that is the difference. We were taught slutty means cheap. Hell no. You out of your mind? This is a privilege that I've cultivated with myself because this is high next level spirituality. This is the place where creation is made. This is the place where babies are being made. And I am not having sex to make babies, but you can see how that can be, right? Because if this is where life is
Yeah.
created, there's a spiritual, deep, deep spiritual aspect to it that, it's this casual approach to sex that our culture has where we cheapen it. And it's like, that's not what we're talking about. And when you get empowered and own your own sex, you will never cheapen it. You will only value it. You will only hold, you start to value your body more. And you're like, oh my God, I love this so much more because of the euphoria that I was able to create even in my own self pleasure practice. And then if I am letting another person into my space, you better believe he's going to treat me with the utmost honor and respect. And if I say no, he pulls back immediately, like, baby, don't worry, whatever you want, whenever you want it. That is what happens because those boundaries become energetic. And it's also very healing, especially if you've had like any sexual trauma, any shame, anything. It's like, how they give vaccines. When they give you a vaccine, they give you part of the vaccine is the actual
Yeah.
virus.
Actual virus. Yeah.
And it's a mind fuck, but it has helped me heal so much sexual trauma in a way that feels good, not in a way where I'm like scared and terrified.
Yeah.
I have, and
Mhm.
I do it with clients all the time. It's like one of the reasons why they aren't having the great sex they have is for a good reason. They were sexually traumatized in either a little T or a big T way, and it's really their body is like doesn't feel safe in those moments, and they need to really work through that and doing it gently with with like pleasure tools actually brings
Yeah.
so much healing because it starts to create that safety because
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not involving someone else. You're starting to do it's like we're teaching the tools to you to do with yourself, not about the partner, right? Because this is like a
Yeah.
slow thing. This is like steps, a staircase. We're not saying go and be sexually expressed, join the Sensual Sisterhood, and be like a slut
Yeah.
tomorrow. Go after the mailman or the UPS guy. Like, this is it's and it's an unfolding, it's an unraveling, it's an adjourn. It's that's it. Like the sexual, like your sexual expression is a journey. We don't know where it's going to lead you, but there's many amazing places, stops on the way. Because the other thing that I would tell myself is, it is the deepest source of your creativity. I cannot tell you, like, when I feel I'm in my empower, like I'm in my sexual, like, expression. And also there's like modulation, right? Like, yeah, I could get turned on at like the frequency of like 100. I could turn it down to, and that's all mastery. You're mastering all this. And when I can dial it into a certain frequency, I can use that sexual energy for creation in business, for creation in work, in relationships, in my life. I make everything more fun in my day because of it. Not necessarily doing anything sexual, but it is sensual. So it's fueling it. And it's like a lot of
Yeah.
artists talk about this, and I didn't understand what they were talking about, but that's what happens. It's like that life force that you start to activate, you can modulate it and then use it for other things. I mean, like I could write a book for my like 20, 15
You should
things
write a
that I
book.
wish that I was along the way of
Yeah.
how sex is really so medicinal, so healing. And also, it's like then I learn about, what turns her on is to be the turn on. It's Esther Perel says this. It's like, wait a second. It's so much fucking better when I own my sex, because um, it's all about me making sure I have pleasure. And he actually is way more turned on by that versus me being like, is he gonna think I look hot? Did I say the right thing? All of this stuff. Like, they're actually way more captivated when I am turned on by my own damn self. And it
Totally. I mean, we fuel each other. Think about it. Like when you, okay, even if you've never been fully sexually expressed, but if you've ever been with a partner who really wants you and is like taking their time and is like ravaging you, in that sense of the word, that turns you on. It doesn't matter what he or she is doing. It's like the being wanted so much and seeing them in their turn on turns you on. That's a drop in the bucket compared to the female's version of that, right? So I'm glad you brought up like the sacred part of it in particular, because I don't think I would have mentioned that to my younger self. Like I just forgot about it, but you're so right. And I also want to say that the stuff you mentioned about trauma, it's making me think, number one, we should have a whole
works.
separate episode on how pleasure can heal sexual trauma. But I do want to say this, because I think it's really important. Whether or not you've personally experienced sexual trauma as a woman, and
Yeah.
chances are you have, because the majority of us have, but even if you haven't actually had any actual sexual trauma with another human, we are all traumatized as females from the standpoint of the way our bodies are picked apart and judged and controlled, like legislation, the rules around it, the fact that we're the ones that have babies and like they're constantly trying to control whether we have access to birth control or abortion or prenatal care. Like we are traumatized simply by being born female because of the system that we're born into. Then on top of it, you may or may not have experienced trauma in an intimate relationship. So we're going to do that in a separate episode, but I wanted to acknowledge it because you may be watching or listening to this and feeling that in your body, even if it's not coming up to your thoughts. And there is a lot of healing to
And
be
that's
done in
how we
that.
get the healing. Yeah,
Okay.
it's through the healing. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, this is the best. And from what I've seen with myself and what I've seen with clients, the best healing, like that might be, I find that's a lot of things is that women don't even realize, you bury the memories because it's just like you got to move on with your life and you got to get shit done. But the body remembers. There's a book called The Body Knows the Score. If you're listening to, you should totally read it. And your body remembers. So it's like you think like, oh, 20 years later, it's not informing your life. Like if I was talking to my younger self, if I was talking to my 20-year-old self, my 25-year-old self, I'd be like, babe, if you want to have hot sex at 45, you've got to do the healing work on what happened to you when you were 13, on what happened to you when you were 12, on what happened to you. You have to do it because it will limit you, not just in the bedroom, but in all areas of your life. It's like your body starts to, without your brain catching up fast enough, starts to make you small and contract in all different types of scenarios in your life because it's anticipating that attack,
Yeah.
that hurt, and it's doing the right thing. It's being wise, but here's a moment, a choice moment, an opportunity for you to take your power back and heal the trauma because it is limiting you. It's a veil that I think that most people don't understand until they start to get into this work. And I'm trauma informed, and we also have trauma experts that we could refer you to if it's really deep. But even if
We're gonna do an episode on it where we'll bring someone in and we'll cover that because I think that's a really important topic. Um, Before we wrap up, I wanna share my answer to that question too, because I think it's different than yours. If I were to go back and talk to my 30-year-old self and give her advice about aging and sexuality and desire, I think I would say number one, you have no idea how good it can get. Like, whatever you think is amazing sex now, baby, it's going to get so much better, provided you continue to stay with your body and like learn more about pleasure, do your own pleasure research. Like, don't let this become the thing that rules the show. But it's going to get better. It can get so much better is my first message. And then I would add to that that you're going to learn so many things. You're going to have so many experiences. And as you age, a lot of people around you are going to freak out and focus on, the external and you're going to get anti-aging messaging and you're going to feel like you're expired. Don't fucking buy it. It's all part of the system that's trying to keep us under control. And the truth is we get our superpowers in this realm after 35. That's why they make 35 your expiration date. So don't fucking buy it. You're going to get to a place where, you don't have kids to deal with anymore, where pregnancy isn't as much of an issue. And oh my God, you're going to know yourself so well and it's going to be so good. So look
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
forward
And
to it
also,
instead
you're
of
going to
dreading it.
experience yourself when you decide to go down this road. You're going to experience yourself as sexy, which means like you're not waiting for somebody else to validate and tell you you're sexy. You're like, shit, I'm feeling myself. I'm a
That's right.
sexy,
That's right.
erotic
That's right.
creature. And like, no one can fuck with that. No one can take away that away from you. You don't need anyone else to validate that in
Yes.
you. And when you are operating from that, it doesn't really matter what age you are at, that is intoxicating. It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, we'd love to hear from you. If you've gotten to the end of this episode, tell us what your experiences are. Has your sex life gotten better as you've aged? Have we pressed the button on any of the fears or myths that you've bought into? Like, we want to hear from you. Or maybe you have questions that we didn't get to. Drop them in the comments below. We love reading all of those. We respond to all of them. So thank you for joining us and having this delicious conversation. We'll see you next week. Mwah.